Boxing King Media in association with Boxro. Delighted to be joined by Dominic Ingle. Dom, appreciate your time. It's Monday, it's a miserable day outside. I thought the fans will enjoy your breakdown of the weekend's action. When we spoke last week, at the time, we didn't know who the opponent was going to be to replace Dillian Whyte against AJ. There were the options of Hrgovic, Chisora, Gerald Washington, Robert HELENIUS. I don't believe he was an option at the time, but he ended up being the guy. Your thoughts on the opponent? Was it the right opponent you think he picked?
Well, HELENIUS had boxed the week before. And yes, he was probably the right opponent for AJ because he's old, he's 39. He's been knocked out quickly by Deontay Wilder. I suppose that's a measuring stick. And people say, well, he boxed last week, but knowing how fighters are, maybe not heavyweights, because heavyweights don't have to particularly make a weight class. And he probably wasn't even aware that he might be fighting Joshua. So I would have thought after he boxed, he let his hair down. And then all of a sudden, along's come along.
In fact, just to correct you, he got a phone call apparently 10 minutes after his manager got a call. So he kind of knew straight away after his fight.
Well, fair enough. So I'm going to say he let his hair down, but obviously then he didn't let his hair down then. Let's say he didn't let his hair down. But, you know, I don't think he was ever expected to beat AJ. And it's a nice windfall, isn't it, at the back end of his career. He tried to beat Deontay Wilder in a world title fight. He got flattening around. And he's a kind of like a golden handshake, so to speak. So who's going to turn that down? And I suppose, you know, he's always going to have the excuse saying, well, you know, I wasn't preparing for AJ. You know, I did the best I could do. He's got a kind of valid reason why he didn't win the fight. But I think we had the discussion last week that if AJ was going to make a statement, he had to kind of get rid of HELENIUS in, you know, 3 or 4 rounds. And it took him 7. And maybe in HELENIUS's mind, he thought, well, I've got past 6 rounds. I did 6 rounds. He maybe only trained for a 6-round, you know, he was training for the 6-round fight the fight before, not a 12-round fight. So he's probably already set that mental bar in his head that, you know, any round past round 6, I'm doing all right. And he got caught with a shot and he got knocked out. What I did notice about that fight, watching it, is that he's 6'9", HELENIUS. I think Tyson's 6'8". And he found AJ with the jab very, very easily. And my dad used to like to say, you know, the guy old manned him for 6 rounds, and he did. That's what HELENIUS did. He old manned AJ, he blagged it, he fainted. He probably tagged him with a couple of hard shots to make AJ stand back. And kept himself. It was quite an easy fight for him up until getting hit, and I think it was more him being tired when he got caught with the shot, because AJ did try the left hand down to the body, overhand right, a few times in the preceding rounds, in the rounds before, and he caught him with the shots, but not to the effect that he did it. And I think it was more HELENIUS getting tired, dropping his hands, and leaving himself an open target. That actually, you know, got him finished. So considering that AJ's trainer Derek James is the fighters he trains are aggressive forward coming fighters like the Charlos and Errol Spence, if I'm honest, I didn't see any changes in what AJ was doing. There was no great changes. It was no different. The only fight that AJ really boxed any different for me was when he boxed. When he boxed Ruiz and he had to play it safe. All right, with Usyk, he played a slightly different type of game. But there was no big changes in the performance on Saturday night. And people say, well, you know, he should be a bit cautious because it was a new trainer. And look, it's like you don't have to adjust to a new trainer. The only thing what's greatly changed with AJ over the last couple of fights is the trainers. You know, didn't change much with Garcia. Hasn't changed really, in my opinion, from, you know, Derek Granger's training him. So there's been more change with the trainers than there has been with the style.
You know, just to be devil's advocate, you know, a couple of things I've picked up. Would it be fair to say, with Robert Garcia, what I noticed in the Usyk fights was there was a lot more body work, you know, a lot of hooks going to the body, because I'm guessing that was a game plan. And then obviously in the Ruiz fight, we saw him boxing on the outside. You know, using his footwork, etc. And he obviously boxed Ruiz to a decision. And then on Saturday, we saw obviously some people have used the term gun shy, that's been used by, some people in the comms, some people who spoke to post-fight, but could there be a different spin on it where maybe he wants to be a different fighter in the sense of maybe setting up his work and setting up his shots rather than people expect him to just go out throwing 4 or 5 punch combinations?
Yeah, but he was getting caught with shots he shouldn't get caught with, and it's all right if you're going to set up your shots, but he's all right getting caught by HELENIUS, who he's got long limbs, he can probably dig a little bit, but he's not. When you're thinking that if we're going to be measuring everybody, you think that Deontay Wilder just walked out and flattened him straight away. Well, let's just put Wilder in the position on Saturday night fighting AJ. The AJ who turned up on Saturday night, how would that be? Because
would he not? Would it be fair to say he may fight with a different game plan?
Sorry?
Because would it be fair to say he may fight with a different game plan? Because I've heard people say in the past if he stands off against Wilder, the fight won't last long. But let's just say, I'd like to think he knows that. But what if he did fight Wilder? Because I'm sure I saw him say in the post-fight interview that the tactics may be different against Wilder.
Well, the way he would have to fight Wilder, HELENIUS is 6'9". How tall is Deontay Wilder? Right. So you've got, and he's supposed to be fighting Deontay Wilder next. So Deontay Wilder is a more aggressive, more erratic, more throw caution to the wind than HELENIUS. So you would think if Joshua is practicing on HELENIUS how he's going to fight Deontay Wilder, fighting like he did on Saturday night is going to get him knocked out. And it's more or less in the bag at 39 years old, boxing the week before, that it would be the ideal opportunity for AJ to throw caution to the wind and jump straight on that HELENIUS and make a statement. Because, yeah, he might get clipped with a few shots. He's a couple of years younger, maybe 5 years younger, and he's less shot-worn than HELENIUS. AJ's never been knocked out like HELENIUS has. So the way you're going to beat Deontay Wilder is not by standing off him, because he's so long in his reach and he throws the shots from the back of the hole and you don't know where they're coming from. You're going to get caught, whereas the safest place to be with Deontay Wilder is on his chest. And look how Tyson Fury fought him. He was either miles away from him, well out of reach, or he was bang on his chest, bullying him, pushing down, leaning on him. And even then, Tyson got clipped with a few. So from that fight, what I learned is that, first of all, Tyson Fury, his height and reach, he will do a 10 times better job than HELENIUS did in the first couple of rounds. He's going to struggle, Anthony Joshua, with somebody like Tyson Fury. And secondly, that Anthony Joshua should have kind of practiced on HELENIUS what he was going to do when he boxes Deontay Wilder.
And that is the plan, the jab to the body, working to the body and setting up that shot?
No, that's not going to work, is it? It's not going to work against Deontay Wilder because AJ's footwork's not good enough to get in. Now, Tyson Fury is a big unit. He's as big as Deontay Wilder. The size difference between HELENIUS and AJ on the night, you could see a massive difference. So, there's a massive difference. And HELENIUS was just keeping him off with a pouring jab. Once in a while, AJ tapped his jab down. But AJ should have been tapping that jab, countering and stepping in fast. But he was tapping it down away from the body. But he never capitalised on it. He didn't throw many counters off tapping the jab down. So he's still not getting into position quickly to get the shots off. And he's being cautious. And when he's being cautious and leaning back, he's getting caught.
With regards to that term cautious and gun shy, again, these are terms a lot of people have used in the last week. Again, I like to look at a different perspective. Could it just be him trying to remodel his style and add different skill sets to his style and just be a different fighter and have more tools in his box?
No, because when he was stood off HELENIUS, and if he's been defensively minded, it's easy to avoid getting hit if you're practicing not getting hit. You understand? You can stand in front of somebody and make them completely miss shots if you put your mind to it. It's dead easy to do. Because HELENIUS, he wasn't throwing a high volume of shots, he was throwing singles, ones and twos. But he was still catching AJ. So if you're going to practice that kind of thing, practice tapping down the jab, practice slipping, practice pulling back and not getting hit. Not getting hit with shots that you shouldn't be getting hit with. So, You know, he should be practicing what he's going to do, and he should have a plan against what, you know, he's going to against Deontay Wilder, and he's not going to beat Deontay Wilder by stepping off him. He's not. And he's not going to beat Deontay Wilder by stepping toe to toe with him having a punch up. He's going to have to be smart. He's going to actually have to look at the blueprint of how Tyson Fury beat him. All right, he's not a Tyson Fury. He's not a Tyson Fury, AJ, but in order to beat Deontay Wilder, you can't give him time, you can't give him space, and you've got to bully him and you've got to zap him.
Well, I'll put a different spin on it, because I know in the past we've spoken about how key activity is, and I've looked at Wilder's stats. So since September 2021, AJ has fought 31 rounds. Wilder's had 2 minutes and 50 seconds against HELENIUS, where he threw one shot.
And what?
Just the activity. Obviously, he's had 31 rounds in the last 2 years. And let's just say if they fight in January and Wilder doesn't get an interim fight, he's going in with 1 round behind him in 3 years, and obviously AJ's going in with 30 odd rounds. Surely that's got to be a disadvantage to Wilder for timing and all that sort of stuff.
Well, not necessarily. It's not, because look, boxing's like riding a bike. You just you're still doing your sparring. Well, it's not a fight situation. Well, he's not making weight when he's training for a fight. He's an heavyweight, so you can always make a case for fighters under heavyweight when they're having to make weight, because performance in the ring is affected by dropping weight, and you're always dropping weight through camp, generally. So you never know. You can't always say what's going to turn up on the night. You understand? Kell Brook, fighters who keep closer to the weight like Cole Froch, you can. I used to have people sparring Cole Froch for most of his career as a world champion, and he was always within about 5 pounds of his weight. So what you saw in sparring is what you saw on the night of a fight. So Kell Brook had to drop lots of weight during camp, and his sparring was never great, but on the night his performances were. So, you know, ring rust and everything else, it's experience. Deontay Wilder's had experience, AJ's experience. Like, it doesn't matter. I'll give you an example. I had Billy Joe Saunders. His fight before he came to me, the two fights he had with me at the beginning, his fight the previous December was shocking. So he didn't have to adjust to a new trainer, because Billy Joe Saunders already got the boxing skills. So I had to look at him, right, and these are the things he needs to do. Get fit, get the weight down safely, and he'll perform fantastic because he's a good boxer. So 9 months after boxing absolutely terrible in a sports centre in Scotland, 9 months later he boxes, he defends his world title. And he gets through the fight, and he does all right, and his performance was better than that. Then he boxed Lemieux 3 months after in December, and it was a fantastic performance. All I did was train him properly to bring out the best in him. I didn't try changing him, just brought out the best in him where he was going wrong. So you don't forget how to ride a bike, and you don't forget how to drive a car. If you've always drove a car badly, you'll always drive a car badly. If you drive a bike badly, you keep falling off, you'll always drive a bike badly.
Can you add skills to your toolbox? I'll use Tyson Fury's example, because a lot of people, if you watch Tyson's first 10 fights and you watch his last 10 fights, 2 different fighters.
But mainly because, well, let's look who was training him. It all changed for Tyson Fury. You can see the pivotal point when it kind of changed. Is his uncle Huey was training him at first. Do you understand? Who sadly passed away. And then he went through a stint of training with, over in America with Emmanuel Stewart. And it kind of changed for him then. He didn't, I'm not even sure whether he had a lot of fights under Emmanuel Stewart. I can't remember now.
I think Peter took over.
Right. So, but I was a timekeeper when I was 18, 19 years old. And I did a fight with Lennox Lewis against a fighter called Steve Garber from Bradford. And Lennox Lewis had 2 fellas in his corner, and I didn't even recognise them as trainers. And he was very cumbersome, disjointed. He wasn't together, but he'd obviously got raw power. He could punch. His style wasn't great to watch. When he went to Emmanuel Stewart tidied him up. Do you understand? He took the rough edges off him, gave him a formula, and he had a very successful career. So Tyson Fury's first couple of fights, he was trained by his uncle, who was probably just a low-level trainer, and Tyson was getting through on his own ability. He was probably making things wrong with his diet. His probably training wasn't great, but the size of him, what he'd actually got him through the fights. And you can do that in your first 10 fights against low-level opposition. But then changes have to be made. He couldn't carry on doing that in the next 10 or 20 fights. You've got to raise your game because you're going up to a different level. So he changed several trainers several times, and he learned as he went along, and he improved. So that's the story of Tyson Fury. But the thing is, Tyson Fury boxes as an amateur. He comes from a travelling background when fight is in the nature. They're fighting it when they're kids. They're fighting on campsites. They've got that natural aggression. They've got that natural front. That's not how AJ came through. We all know he had a limited amateur career. So he's still learning in the first 10 fights of his career. And I've had this conversation before when I said he came to the gym, sparred Richard Towers, asked me for some advice. I said, don't bang everybody out in a round. Learn in your first 10 fights. Tyson was learning in the first 10 fights. One of his fights, he punched himself in the face. So that just shows you, but at some point, you're not going to get away with it, living the life and getting away with winning fights. You have come to a point where you think, if I don't start smartening my act up, I'm going to get caught out. And Tyson Fury had that awakening time, he did. So that's why he improved, and then he changed trainers, and he realised, there's certain things I need to learn, and he's learned to do it. He didn't get gifted world title shots. He had to do it the hard way. He had to go to Germany and beat Klitschko, who hadn't been beaten for so many years. That's what he had to do. He went into Klitschko's backyard and beat him. So he's had to do it the hard way. So he's got that in his repertoire, hasn't he? Whereas AJ has had everything over here, and he's kind of been moved into position and opportunities and promoted that way.
The common argument there also is that, without going too much into detail, is the list of fighters both guys have fought. So if you were just to answer as just a one-word answer, who has the better resume if you just look at the names on the records?
Look, you can beat good kids in the past and still box rubbish in the future. You can box rubbish in the past and still beat good in the future. Some people's performances aren't consistent. The fighters were always going to be consistent in what they do. Just 90% consistency, like Floyd Mayweather. He had little scares against certain fighters, like Shane Mosley, DeMarcus Cole. He had a little bit of a scare there. He had those little blips, but for probably 90 to 95% of his career, he's very consistent. There'll be other fighters, and I can't name them. And then there'll be fighters who are very inconsistent, and then they'll pull a win out of the bag. Do you understand? And boxing is about being consistent in what you do, from performance to performance. Johnny Nelson was very inconsistent at the beginning of his career, and he got the inconsistencies worked out, and then he became a world champion. He was very consistent, and people say, yeah, he was very consistently boring.
Interesting thoughts there, Dom. What about the boos? You will, I think, about around 3-4 onwards, there was like boos in the crowd, and people are suspecting it was because the fans were expecting an early knockout, and then obviously AJ was kind of just using boxing skills, etc., trying to set up that shot. Because it never came early, there was boos in the crowd. Is it fair to say it's that analogy that you always give me with regards to Jesus going to Jerusalem and how the fans can turn?
Yeah, they will do.
Because what you saw at the end was when he got the knockout, they all just jumped ringside to take pictures with him.
Yeah, I mean, look, fans are fans, and, they'd love to think that, everybody loves to give their opinion. With social media now, everybody wants to give their opinion. Everybody wants to be an expert. Everybody wants to say he should be doing it. I went to some football at the weekend. Took me lad to the football, and you sat with the fans, and they're giving their own opinion, and everybody's got their own opinion, and everybody wants to be an expert. And trainers want to be experts, and boxers want to be experts. But AJ's taking the shots, and it's the trainer doing the training. So you've got to kind of, AJ will be listening to what his trainer's saying, and you can't really respond to the crowd in that sense. The crowd can lift you, in fights. But when the negatives coming out in the booing, you've got to, it's no thinking, the crowd are booing, I better do a shot I'm not supposed to do and leave myself open. AJ's still got to think about what he's got to do and what his plan is or what the plan's been. So you kind of know that as long as you get the win, you're going to get the moments of, the booing. But at the end, when you get the knockout, everybody's going to be cheering for you, and that's how fickle the fans are. And when you realise how fickle the fans are, then you have to just, see it for what it is and think, I can't respond to that. I've got to stick to my plan, and a good fighter will stick to the plan. Maybe AJ was trying stuff out, who knows? But he got the win, which is the important thing. And I put something out on my social media. I can't believe the response I got. He has still got the power, but how will he go on against Wilder? 50% of the people wanted him to, box. Or 51% of the people wanted him to, get in, and you might as well fight AJ. You might as well fight Deontay Wilder. See what you've got. You're at a stage now where realistically you should take them fights. There's no need to build up. You've been a world champion. You've been whatever you've been. So take the chance. And then there were another 49 saying, well, no, maybe he needs a few more. So it's a very, very even match.
Well, that very question was asked to the three pundits on the night, who were David Hay, Barry Jones and Tony Bellew. David Hay and Barry Jones said he should fight Wilder next, but Tony Bellew said no. What do you make of that?
Well, Tony will say that because he's Eddie's man, and it makes sense for Eddie to keep AJ winning as long as he can and raking the money in. And only taking the fight when it's absolutely necessary from pressure from TV, because they're not taking the fight because AJ needs the money, because he's got plenty. Eddie's got plenty. So what they're having to do is have to satisfy the TV. So, the business part of the boxing would say string AJ out as long as you can without getting him banged out and putting him in the career-ending fight, unless there's any need, unless there's a need to do that. And there's no need from AJ's point because he's got plenty of money. There's no need from Eddie's point because he's got plenty of money, but the TV need to be satisfied. So if they can get away with giving him a different opponents and still getting the crowds in, and what will dictate that is the viewing figures and the bums on the seats in the arena. Once the crowds start dwindling and they're not getting the viewing figures, there's only one thing what's going to bring that back, and it's to put him in a dangerous fight where everybody's going to see what he's actually got. So imagine his numbers have dropped for the HELENIUS and the seats, the audience has dropped. If they announce the AJ fight, the Deontay Wilder fight in Britain, it's going to sell out. Well, or wherever they put that fight on, it's going to sell out. Do you understand? It's not going to sell out. He could have had the worst performance on Saturday night. He could have been down on the floor. It could have been a scrappy fight. He could have scraped through it on points, and he'd have got slagged to high heaven, and everybody had no faith in him. But as soon as that fight's announced against Deontay Wilder, them same people they're gonna make that distance, and that arena is going to be sold out because nobody's going to miss what they think is going to happen or what's not going to happen. They're going to watch it. So they'll wait till the figures dip, and people slag him off, and then it's down to AJ whether he's going to take that risk or not. And but the crowds will not. But it's like the Corn Brook fight. People said that fight was dead in the water. It was never an attraction to anybody. It was never going to sell. Even Eddie said it wasn't going to sell. It's way past its sell-by date. But when they actually stepped into the arena was a sellout. It was an attraction. Everybody wanted to watch it. And it, probably wasn't going to be the fight what it could have been 5 years ago, but it was still a good fight, a good atmosphere, and people tuned in.
On the last thing I want to ask you about the fight, Dom, you touched on it there, money. You said he's got plenty of money. Specifically, I made sure AJ was asked this question at post-fight. I don't know where he's on the Forbes list, but I'm pretty sure he's probably the richest boxer in the UK. You've obviously been around circles with a lot of boxers who are very, very wealthy. And something I've picked up from AJ as a character over the years, even though he's been assassinated recently, mainly for his performances and I think the odd few comments he made, but overall, I don't remember ever seeing Anthony Joshua drunk, spilling out of nightclubs with different women, driving around in flash cars, private jets. I'm aware from people in his circle that he does a lot of stuff charity-wise, but we don't see any of that publicly. That's the spending, the lavish spending, and we also don't see the good stuff he does. And we asked him this question, and he kind of just avoided it, but he kind of just said he does it behind the scenes. What does that say about his character as a person and just as a role model to British boxing fans?
Well, let's just say Anthony Joshua, from where he started, from what he had, he has overachieved very, very, very well. and you've got to take your hat off to him for that. He's earned plenty of money with what he's had to start with. He's done exceptionally well, and he should actually be proud of what he's achieved, and I'm sure he is. So there's no doubt in that whatsoever. And as a ambassador for boxing, apart from maybe one or two things like maybe the last fight when he kicked off a little bit in the ring, he's been a good role model. You can't dispute that whatsoever. There's been fighters out there who've been 10 times better than him, who've never achieved what they've actually underachieved. I could name them, but I'm not going to name them. And they've been bad role models. So considering what he's done exceptionally well, and you have to take your hat off to him for that. And you wouldn't publicise the good deeds he's done. Why would you? Because that's not why you do them. You do them because you're a good-natured person. So as far as he's concerned with his legacy or what he's achieved, I'll tell you what lasts a long time after boxing when you've done what he's done. You've got to make sure that your money lasts and that you've got your faculties. The belts on the mantelpiece don't matter. So if he finishes his career with his brain intact and a bank full of money to do what he wants to do, to help himself, help other people, that's what you need in boxing. Forget the belts. The belts are just a means to earn the money. That's the success. You're easily forgot about. Even the best fighters in the world are easily forgot about. So have something to show for it, and he has got something to show for it, and that he should be proud of himself. The people who support him should be proud of that, because you're a long time forgotten. Do you understand? What matters is the people immediately around him who he looks after, whether it's his family, his friends, you know. That's what matters in this world, not somebody that you don't know. You know, a fan's a fan and they'll be on to the next one. All right, the fans pay to see. But you don't owe all this to the fans, do you understand? You're just entertainment, and when you're not the entertainment, somebody else is, and they move on to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. That's what happens in boxing, and that's what you've got to see it for. That's what you've got to see it for. So, on the whole, he's been a fantastic role model. He's elevated boxing, like I've said in previous interviews. He's elevated boxing in Britain and kept it going when it was in a hole. So, for all them pointers, you know, 95% of what he's done has been positive and good.
Yeah, I think it's worth highlighting that, because I just get the sense and feeling he probably doesn't get the recognition for that, and I just wanted you to say that, not me. And one of the things I want to wrap up with, Dom, I find it quite fascinating. I saw on your Instagram story, Rob the Roofer, one of your clients, with regards to all the fitness and somebody you've helped out quite a lot. I put a picture of him where I don't know how much he weighed, but he was obviously really fat, if I put it bluntly, and then now he's got a six-pack. And I just found out the weekend that he was actually a British Board Boxing Official Inspector for the AJ fight, which is quite fascinating. And he put the video up. He thanked you for his journey from being fat to having a six-pack and now having a really good position in boxing.
I mean, he started off as a boxer years ago, and his career got kind of cut short because he didn't get the support he needed. And when he contacted me, he's not on social media, and I think I've said this before, he tracked me down through watching your channel, and he made some inquiries, and somehow he got hold of my email. And emailed me, and that's how we got in touch. And he was telling me all about his life and his boxing career and what he was doing now, and he's into religion and lots of things. Very, very nice fella. And you know, we got on this plan, and he wanted to get into boxing. And I said, well, he goes, oh, I'd love to be a referee. I said, well, this is the number for the Board of Control. Contact them. The procedure is this, how it works. You tell them what you want to do, and they'll tell you what opportunities are available. And I think he went down as a referee, did the interview, and you can only have so many referees in British boxing anyway. There's only a handful. He didn't make the referee, but they offered him a position as an inspector. And I said to him, look, take the position. It's a great place to be. You get to be behind the scenes. You get to see the big fights. A referee is a bit more closed off. You're in the ring watching an officiate. There's a lot of pressure on you, you know, and you don't get to see the big picture of boxing. And he got on board, he got on with the Board of Control, he's done loads of shows, and he said to me, I'm on the AJ card. He went to the O2, and he's done exceptionally well. He's over the money, he's living the dream in his words. And it was funny because he'd done his run in the hotel. He was in the Continental, I think, it's the one next to the O2. He said, I came outside and I realised Eddie Hearn had got this 5K run that he does with everybody. and I half realised what was going on. I jumped on the run, and he beat everybody apart from Sonny Edwards and two other fellas who were, you know, decent runners. So he was over the moon with himself, and then at the night he got to see the fights, be in the corner, did the Chisora fight, and everybody's messaged me saying, "I'm sure I've seen your client, Rob the Roofer, or somebody who looks very similar to him, being in the corner of Chisora doing the inspector." I says, "Yeah, that's what he's done." So it just shows you how one thing leads to another. By just changing yourself, and fair play to him. He's having a great time at the minute.
Definitely, I will put up a picture of him on screen again so people can see the results. And like always, if anybody wants to change their life, and he's a brilliant example, first-hand example I've seen, and the fans can see now as well, just hit you up on Instagram and change your life.
Yeah, I got a lot of inquiries off that one, and I'm getting a lot of this. Every time we do an interview, I get so many people messaging me. And it's surprising because, I've got a big social media presence, and a lot of people contact me through Instagram, but it just opens it up to a new audience on your channel. It's so many people, never realise I do this kind of thing. So yeah, it's good. Keep it coming, and there's more people out there to help.
Dominic Ingle, as always, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll catch up next time.